The audiobook industry is growing all the time. It's absolutely massive. And it's a great route in, I think, to doing other sorts of voiceovers as well. So if you're just starting out, taking on an audiobook might be a good idea. It could be quite long, but it'll really sharpen your skills. But a lot of audiobooks won't be suitable for you, and there'll be others that are, that you really kind of click with. So let's take a look at which audiobook genres might be right for you and your voice. One of the main genres is mystery and thriller type of books. And here, your skills, I think, need to be along the lines of being able to create suspense. If your reading style, if your narration style can create a suspenseful atmosphere, then that might be for you. And also being able to create and paint pictures about the scene, whether it's murder mystery or whatever. But I think having that ability to create suspense in your reading and in your style and in the way you're conveying the story to the listener, that's absolutely essential. So if you think, well, yeah, I like reading mystery books and thrillers and murder mysteries and so on, then that kind of genre might be absolutely ideal for you when it comes to narrating your audiobooks. The next category is fantasy and sci-fi, science fiction. Now, very, very popular, as you might imagine. I think you've got to have an interest in that kind of book in order to pull it off successfully, because you've got to create some quite unique characters that require a lot of imagination on your part. The author might, or the publisher might say, well, this particular creature talks in a certain way, and you've got to be able to do that. So I think a love of sci-fi, science fiction will really help, and a love of that kind of fantasy type of book. I mean, it's a huge area, as you might imagine. However, I think you've got to have that interest in that area, and also be able to create these interesting, off-the-wall, slightly left-field character voices as well, where required. So if that's your bent, if you like that kind of thing, then go for sci-fi and fantasy. Great area to get into. Have you got a knack for portraying heartfelt emotions? And what about the chemistry? Can you, in your reading style, can you convey the chemistry between star-crossed lovers? If so, romance might be the area, the genre that will interest you most, and also be a natural fit for your style. I think you've got to have a lot of empathy there, haven't you? And you've got to be able to convey that empathy as well, and some other elements as well. But romance is about the romance. That's what it's all about. And I think in your style and your tone, you've got to be able to get those emotions across, get those feelings across. It's real kind of heartfelt stuff. And I think if you can do that, then romance is your genre. How about historical fiction, what we might call period drama, that kind of thing? Set in Victorian times or Georgian times or whatever. A lot of it around on TV and Netflix and so on, of course, at the moment. And a lot of books about that kind of thing, a lot of fiction, a lot of stories about that. So if you can create a sense, a flavour of the period involved, whether it's Georgian, Edwardian, Victorian, whatever it happens to be, time of the Civil War, then I think historical fiction may be for you. Again, you've got to create characters that are believable, but set within that time frame as well. So quite tough to do, I think. The language might be different, the way they approach things, the mores, the mores, and the manners of the day have to be conveyed accurately. And if you can do that convincingly and with sincerity, then perhaps historical fiction might be your number one genre. Have you read to your children or to your nephews and nieces, your grandkids or whatever? And we've all been read to as children, of course. And I think children's fiction can be a great area to get into because we feel we've all got a little bit of experience in that, whether it's from our own childhood or what we're doing at the moment, reading our children bedtime stories and so on. It's a great proving ground. They are short. They tend to be shorter in length, So in many ways, easier to do. In some ways, quite hard to do. I think you've got to have a range of voices and tones and tempos as well. Sometimes children's stuff can be read quite quickly, can be quite rhythmic, can be lots of rhymes in there, depending on the book, of course. But they can be very exciting to do and interesting to do, and you can always test it out on your own children if you're lucky enough to have them, or your own grandchildren, whatever. So that's I think a possibility. If that kind of thing interests you and you think, well, yeah, I'd like to give that a go, then maybe children's fiction could be for you. Don't leave out non-fiction. It's a huge area and divided into lots of different subgenres, really. So we've got things like money and business. We've got a lot of wellness stuff. So self-help books, huge sellers, particularly the good self-help books, and money and business. But also things like educational books, history books, and so on, biographies. They're all in the mix. And I think with that kind of style, it's much more matter of fact, and usually there aren't any character voices to put on. So if that's much more your bag, and you think, well, I don't want to do the character voices, I'd just like to give a straight narration, then non-fiction could be for you. I think it's important to remember it's not just reading the words out, though. You've got to be engaged with the subject matter. So someone listening to a money book or self-help book doesn't just want to hear a monotonous voice. You've got to be engaging with that material and make it interesting, make it sound like you're fascinated to interest the listener. But non-fiction, it is huge, massive, absolutely massive areas, and there are some great books out there. And if you're more into straight narration, then a non-fiction book like a wellness book, or like I say, business and money, or biography, something like that might suit you better. Wrapping it all up then, I think the best audio book for you will be one that aligns with your skills and interests as well. That's the key. It's not like doing a short commercial about shampoo, for example. You may think, well, I've never used that shampoo. Doesn't mean you can't sell it. Or if you're doing a used car ad, local radio ad or something, and you've never bought any cars from that particular garage, doesn't mean you can't do the commercial. And likewise with corporates, you may do a corporate about something that's way out of your knowledge base, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. And you can do it all within half an hour or an hour or less, perhaps. With an audio book, you're doing it over many, many hours, and that could be many days or weeks even. So it's a big commitment. And I think because of that, you need to, when it comes to audiobooks, you need to be chiming with the genre. And that's the main message I want to get across today, is that do something that you want to do. Read an audiobook that you want to read. And hopefully you'll get picked, and also you'll get paid for it as well. So audiobooks, fantastic area to get into. Good luck with that. Let me know how you get on, or any questions you have, please pop them in the comments below the video. All right, thanks very much for watching today. Look after your voice and see you next time.